Vladimir Putin's Russia, a regime that refuses to fall. What you might expect from Russia's political regime today isn't what it was just a couple of years ago. Since Putin's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia has evolved into an even tighter, more personalist dictatorship, with power concentrated in Putin's hands alone. The country's institutions have been subordinated to his will, and what we once knew as a semi-authoritarian state has now solidified into something far more controlled. In the third year of the war, the Russian regime has only grown more isolated, with elections serving as mere loyalty tests rather than genuine democratic processes. Parliamentary institutions and regional governments have taken a back seat to unelected security councils and oligarchs loyal to Putin. In fact, Russia's current political landscape is defined by two main traits: authoritarian consolidation and incredible resilience. You might wonder, with all the internal challenges the Kremlin has faced, such as the failed rebellion of Prigozhin or the ongoing political tensions, how has Putin's regime stayed afloat? The truth is that it's far more resilient than many in the West realize. Despite several crises, including internal political disputes and military failures, the Kremlin has skillfully navigated them, maintaining control. This resilience isn't just about surviving. It's about adapting. Let's take a closer look at how the regime has managed to not only hold on, but tighten its grip, even after major setbacks. Putin's war plan and early failures. When Putin launched the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in early 2022, his goal was clear: overthrow the Ukrainian government and install a puppet regime. But, as we all know, things didn't go as planned. The Ukrainian military's resistance, President Zelensky's unwavering leadership, and crucial Western support through weapons and intelligence helped slow Russia's advance and thwarted its political objectives. By the summer and fall of 2022, it was clear that Putin's vision for a quick victory had failed. As Russia's initial advances faltered, there was a growing sense of doubt among Russian military commentators, many of whom began publicly criticizing the government's handling of the war. These voices gained traction on social media, threatening the legitimacy of the Russian regime. Rather than silencing these critics, the Kremlin made a surprising move. It co-opted them. In June 2022, Putin began meeting with military bloggers, even establishing a working group to foster communication between these war correspondents and the government. This decision would prove pivotal in the months that followed. The Prigozhin rebellion and the resilience of the Kremlin. As Russia faced setbacks on the battlefield, another challenge emerged. The notorious warlord Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner Group, began publicly clashing with Russia's military leadership. The tension reached a boiling point in the spring of 2023, when Prigozhin led an armed rebellion against the Russian military's bureaucratic elite, including Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. This was no small mutiny. It represented a serious challenge to Putin's authority. Prigozhin, with his massive private army, had the power to destabilize the regime. Yet, despite the initial shock, the Kremlin quickly responded with a combination of negotiation and force. Prigozhin's rebellion was stopped, but only after the Russian leadership acted decisively to secure their grip on power. Prigozhin's fate was sealed soon after. In August 2023, he was killed in a suspicious plane crash. While his rebellion seemed like it could spark major unrest, within months, it felt as if it had never happened. The Kremlin had successfully reasserted its dominance, with Prigozhin's power dissipating as swiftly as it had risen. The aftermath and reorganization of power. After the chaos of the rebellion, Putin faced a delicate balancing act, reshuffling his leadership while maintaining the stability of his regime. In early 2024, Putin orchestrated a significant reorganization, placing loyalists in key positions to ensure greater control over the military and security apparatus. Most notably, the Defense Ministry saw major personnel changes, with Andrei Belousov replacing Shoigu. Despite public tensions and betrayals within the Russian military, Putin's management of these changes was shrewd. By waiting to make moves until after the Wagner crisis had passed, he prevented any perception of weakness or concession to the mutineers. This approach ensured that the Russian elite continued to rally behind Putin, reaffirming his authority. The road ahead. Challenges and uncertainty. While the Russian regime has shown incredible resilience, it's not invincible. The long-term effects of the Prigozhin rebellion and the growing discontent within the Russian military could create future challenges for the Kremlin. The threat of a civil war or a significant internal challenge to Putin's rule still looms, particularly as Russia faces increasing economic hardship and fatigue from the ongoing war. Putin's regime has been able to adapt to internal challenges so far. But what about the future? Can the system hold together if public opinion shifts, or if the military's loyalty wavers? The truth is, the Russian political system remains highly vulnerable to shifts in elite loyalty. If the regime becomes out of touch with its elites, or if military failures continue to mount, it could eventually trigger a larger crisis. But for now, Putin's grip on power seems unshaken. Conclusion: resilience in the face of adversity. Despite its internal struggles, Russia's authoritarian regime has shown an incredible capacity for survival and adaptation. From the battlefield setbacks in Ukraine to the Prigozhin rebellion and the reshuffling of government officials, the Kremlin has demonstrated its ability to absorb shocks and maintain control. While the future remains uncertain and challenges persist, there's no denying the strength of Putin's political machine. As long as he can continue to manage the internal pressures, Russia's political system will likely remain intact. But remember, history teaches us that no regime is invincible. The question is, how long can this resilience last?